minds and our bodies. That's what's so wonderful about yoga practice is that we find that way to unite the mind and the body through the breath. And so really our physical body is directly affecting our mental state and vice versa. Our mental state directly affects, what's happening physically. I think there's a lot of mental anxiety that shows up as physical anxiety, whether it's a stomach ache or a headache or tension in our muscles.
This episode is brought to you by Mariah Martin Sleep Consulting. If bedtime feels like a battle and your child's sleep or lack of it is running the show, it might be time to call in a pro. Mariah Martin is a certified pediatric sleep consultant who helps exhausted parents turn chaos into calm with personalized sleep plans rooted in science and compassion. Whether you're dealing with night wakings, nap struggles, or early morning wake-ups, Mariah's gentle, evidence-based methods are designed to meet your child's needs without the stress. She's a mom herself, so she gets it, and she's helped hundreds of families finally reclaim their nights and their sanity. Visit MariahMartinSleepConsultant.com to schedule your free discovery call and take the first step toward peaceful, predictable sleep, because you deserve rest too. Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today's episode is going to be an absolute treat. Whether you're a fitness enthusiast, a busy parent, or someone looking for a little more balance in your life, this conversation is for you. I'm sitting down with Kristin McGee, an OG of the fitness world, a celebrity yoga and Pilates instructor, and the ultimate mom of three. Kristin has been at the forefront of bringing yoga and Pilates to the mainstream, from starring in MTV's Yoga and Pilates series to working with A-list celebrities. She has also played a pivotal role in launching Peloton's yoga program and is now carving her own path with her latest venture, Kristin McGee Movement, a space for mindful movement and connection. In this episode, we talk about balancing motherhood and career, the power of mindfulness and movement, and why sometimes the bravest thing you can do is pivot toward what truly serves you. Kristin also shares personal stories, career lessons, and practical wellness tips that you can apply to your own life. So without further ado, let's welcome Kristin. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Samantha. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you. So before we get into all the yoga and mindfulness, we start each episode with our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, then about something that's been bothering us, and share our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Kristin, what is your WINE of the week?
I am a big Chianti fan, and the name of the bottle that I had a glass of wine with an amazing pasta dish the other night. And I just love like a good dry red Italian wine. It's always my favorite.
I am right there with you, especially in this winter season. I am in the red season. So a good Chianti always does the trick. And what is your wine of the week? WHINE.
My wine, I would say the struggle of doing activities with three boys, because I love the adventure and I love being with them, but it's also very insane. Like I just took all three of them skiing on my own, like getting all the boots on, getting all the gear on, the complaints of like, this is too tight or this doesn't fit or I'm run. But then we had a blast once we were up there. But I just think it's the organization and the structure of getting all three boys like on the same path, like in the same car, up to the ski hill, in their gear. It was a big undertaking, and we did it. So I shouldn't really be whining about it. It was exciting.
So that's a win as well. I have two young children and I do a lot with them on my own. And I always think, I don't know how people with more children do this, by themselves. So I really am admiring the fact that you got three of them up to ski. So that's great. So what is your win of the week?
My win of the week, I would say sticking to my daily meditation and movement practice. So every day I do a twice daily 20-minute meditation practice, and I get up and I do some flow. So being able to just stick to it and being consistent with it. I know it's not like a huge win, but to me, just keeping that consistency and showing up on those days, even when I feel like rushed or tired or not in the mood, and I still make it to my mat. I still make it to my meditation cushion.
That's awesome. Consistency is key. Your habits are just something that are so important for our success, I feel. So that's great. And I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
There's a lot of those. I feel like I would say, most recently it would have been my divorce. I was with my partner for 13, almost 13 and a half years, and finally taking that leap of faith and making the decision to file for a divorce, which was extremely hard. And there's so many different factors that go into something like that. But being able to get through it, go through it, and come out on the other side has been a pretty huge victory for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm very happy that you are on the other side of it. And I'm sure it's like a big weight off your shoulder to be on that side of the mountain, I guess.
Yes, thank you.
So, the Running Wine Mom starts with a little fitness. And as we mentioned, you are no stranger to fitness. But what is your favorite way to stay active?
Oh gosh, I have so many. Well, skiing, I just mentioned, and I love the winter months going up skiing with my boys. Definitely have a love-hate relationship with running. I always feel great after my run. I trained for my first marathon in 2024 in London,
Yay.
and that was huge. And it really made me appreciate running even more. And just the technical aspect of running. There's such a freedom to going out for a run, but there's also so much that you have to really think about as well in advance, as far as your nutrition, your fueling, your gear, your other workouts that really like help you with your run. So doing a lot of those single leg movements and strength training and of course the mobility. So my
Hmm.
all-time favorite exercise of course is yoga and Pilates. I love going to take an equipment class. That's always like my one big treat for the week. Going with another, using another instructor that gives me insight is always awesome, I think. So I'm constantly learning and growing. I honestly really love all movement. I love to hike. I love mountain biking when it gets warmer. I love to strength train. And I've been trying to incorporate more of that recently in my life. As I get older, I feel like I definitely need to be doing more strength.
It's so important. I've stepped away a little bit from running and gotten more into the strength training over the last year. And I feel like it's been such a huge difference in my life. And Pilates reform too, as you were saying, Pilates, that's something I do usually 2 days a week. And it's been life changing, really. So wonderful.
It's huge, right? And how old are your kids?
My son is 2.5 and my daughter is 4. So they're
Hey,
little.
thick of it. Yeah.
Yes, yes, they are. I'm like, hopefully, you won't hear too many scattered feet running upstairs. I'm always like, gosh, please don't run around while I'm down here. That's like, impossible to do. So if you do hear anything, that's
Well,
thank you. So, how does maintaining your fitness routine contribute to your understanding of the relationship between mental health and physical health? Again, you're an expert on this.
it's all connected. Our minds and our bodies. That's what's so wonderful about yoga practice is that we find that way to unite the mind and the body through the breath. And so, really, our physical body is directly affecting our mental state, and vice versa. Our mental state directly affects, what's happening physically. I think there's a lot of mental anxiety that shows up as physical anxiety, whether it's a stomach ache or a headache or tension in our muscles. And then also, that physical movement can make such a difference in our mental state. And sometimes you can't wait for the motivation. It's just the action has to create the motivation. But once you do something physically, it just is a world of difference in your mental state. And not to mention how you sleep and your nutrition and your hydration. It just is like such a great, I think, snowball effect. As you move more, I feel like everything starts to fall into place.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Movement really is medicine. It's something I notice for myself when I miss a couple days at the gym. I'm like, I need to move my body because I'm gonna go
Yes.
crazy.
And I even noticed that with my boys. My one son was really anxious yesterday and then got up on the ski slopes and it was like night and day. He was a
Hmm.
completely different kid. And he especially is the type that just needs that outlet of physical release to really
Yeah,
feel mentally good.
yeah, that's awesome. So that will be the perfect intro to parenthood. So you have 3 boys. How old are your boys?
Okay, Timothy is 11. He's my eldest. And then I have twins who are 8 years old, Robert and William. And then I have a fourth boy, Lucky.
Oh boy.
Lucky is my almost 3-year-old cat. He's so cute. So all boys, even Lucky's a boy. And it's such a joy to see them evolving and growing and learning and their curiosity and their kindness and just their adventure and also their resilience. They've been really great going through this, like the timing, the divorce, and all of the
Mhm.
changes in their life as well. They've been just great little troopers.
Oh, that's awesome. So what do you think you were least prepared for in parenthood?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I was least prepared for my attachment style as a mom. I think, especially when they were babies, I just definitely had a major like attachment style of parenting. And I definitely wanted to constantly be there and listen to their needs. And like nursing, I ended up nursing my older son for quite a long time, which I wasn't expecting, letting them crawl into bed with me at night and a lot of those things where I just feel like I'm kind of a smush. Like I have a
Yeah.
very hard time with the discipline, and I like creating some boundaries and structures for them. They're well behaved, so I'm lucky in that respect. But I don't think I was expecting to have such a like I just would do
Mhm.
anything for these kids. I would die for these kids.
Yeah. It's like pre-kid you, you're like, I'll never do this, this, and that. And then you're like, come sleep with me. Sure, yes, whatever you want.
Follow with me, you can have this. Yes.
Yeah. So besides attachment, what do you think your parenting style would be?
Say I am a lead by example type of parent. I would say that I never really try and force my boys to do anything, but I open up the door of exploration and I also show them the things I love.
Hmm.
So they'll see me meditating, they'll see me doing my yoga practice. I don't sacrifice that when they're home. I love that your kids, know that you're downstairs doing podcasts and doing something that fills your cup.
Hmm.
I think so. I'm very much like I want my boys to discover who they are and do what they want to do and find their own passions, but also give them experiences, like take them up skiing. And if they like it, great. If one of them doesn't like it, that's not an issue to me. They can find their own way and their own path. I have a son who loves to sing and plays the piano, which is amazing for me because I'm theatrical and I
Hmm.
grew up singing and dancing. So I love to see that. But I think mostly just having a peaceful, calm, very open and warm environment for them to feel like they can explore and to not ever be afraid to tell me anything. I just found a really cool thing the other day that said, after your kids turn 8, you should keep a little notebook beside their bed and let them know that they can write anything they want to in this notebook, like a question they have, especially with my 11-year-old, which is going to be wild to me. Eventually he'll start going, or soon he might start going into the puberty phase. And so
Yeah.
if he has questions about that, or if there's questions about something that they really want to know, but if they write it down, then we can find a time and a space to address those questions and talk them through together, which I really like that idea.
I love that. I gotta like take notes of it because I know I'm far away, but I think that's wonderful. I also teach 7th through 12th grades. So they're right in the, puberty, hormonal, time of their life. So, and it is really hard for them to open up. So I think that like with the boys especially, so I think that's really important for them to
And
have that.
it's easier to write it because if they're
Yeah.
embarrassed, at least they can write it and then it's out there.
And then forget about it.
Exactly. And then I can look at it and maybe it's something I can answer. Maybe it's something I can't. I'm not a
Right.
guy.
But also it gives you time to find the answer and have that time. That's great. That's
I
awesome.
love that you
So
teach 7th through 12th and that's phys ed.
yeah, phys ed and driver's ed. So yeah. Yeah. So I'm in a different realm of fitness, but I'm just trying to teach lifelong sports for them is the most important thing for me and just really getting getting free play because a lot of that's my mission this year is to really get them to have free play, like less unstructured because there's not a lot of that anymore. There's
Right.
too many rules.
That's very true. I like that approach. Let them have some freedom and be kids.
Yeah, and they're really excelling in it. It's really neat to watch.
Yeah,
I've been
that's
doing
great.
it for yeah, so free play is my advice for any parents who have teenagers. Just let them go and play.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then also that even letting kids be bored.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you get creative, we had days growing up when, we didn't have really much of anything to do. We didn't have any devices or phones and we would come up with some really cool, fun games or songs or plays or shows or whatever it was. So I like that idea of letting them freely play and also not be afraid of being bored.
Yeah. Yeah, we have no phones or anything in the classroom either. So I'm like, make your rules up, play your games. If you
Great.
have play rock, paper, scissors to find the answer if you have a debate, you know. So what is one piece that you would give to other of advice that you would give to other parents?
I would say, you know, go easy on yourself and continue to really find self compassion, because then that spreads to your children. I think sometimes the harsher we are on ourselves, the harsher we are on other people. So it all starts from within. And so the better we develop a really good relationship with ourselves and turn to those kind of tools that create a really healthy mental and physical state, right? So I, like what I said earlier, is I would die for my boys, but I saw something the other day where someone said, would you live for your kids? So,
Mm,
will you stay healthy for them? Will you show them good habits? Will you take care of yourself? So I think by doing all of those things where you really take good care of yourself and have this loving kindness, that just flows over into your children. So when we are judging ourselves, when we're harsh on ourselves, when we hold ourselves up to such high expectations, I think it's good to show your kids that we make mistakes. Just own up to them. If you
mhm.
accidentally yell at them and just, oh, I was having a bad moment, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to raise my voice. Then at least they see you're human. It's okay, but at least you apologized. So I think that it all starts from us.
Yeah, it's so true. That's great advice, especially teaching them it's okay to make mistakes, I think is most important for them because I think a lot of times parents are afraid to like admit that they messed up to their kids. And it's like when I was growing up, I thought all of our parents were perfect. And then you're like, wait, but that's probably because they never really said they were wrong.
And then this way, our kids can feel free to make a mistake and not feel like they're going to be harshly punished. They can come home and say, I messed up. And I can be the one to say, okay, well, how do we repair that together without them being afraid to come to me? I want them to be really, you know, open to coming to me and knowing they can come to me first and foremost if anything ever bad happens or goes wrong or they make a mistake. And I was thinking on that same note of trusting yourself and listening to
Hmm.
your instinct, especially as a new parent. I think sometimes there's
Yeah.
too much advice out there, or you're wondering if I'm doing it wrong or right. But, trust that this is your journey as a parent. You have the right to, learn how you want to raise your kids and go on that discovery together.
Yeah.
And
That is great advice.
every child's different, right?
Yeah, it's yes, they are. They certainly are. All right, so let's get more into you. So you grew up in Idaho and then you moved to New York City to actually study theater. I loved like researching you because I
Yeah.
thought I mean, I only knew you from being an instructor on Peloton, and the more that I researched coming up with the questions, I was like, whoa, like I didn't know all this stuff. So I apologize for not knowing more before, but I'm so glad that I. So how did your early life in Idaho kind of shape your path, and what inspired you to make the leap to New York City?
I think in Idaho, I had this really adventurous outdoor upbringing, which I loved. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and we had a pond in our backyard. We were always swimming in the pond, going on the rope swing, hiking up the mountain, doing a lot of outdoor activities. So I think I had this sense of adventure, which was good because when I moved to New York, I wasn't really afraid of being in New York, even though it's a different kind of
Yeah,
wild nightlife
different wild.
to navigate. And I also grew up, my mom and dad had a performing group. They met in a musical and married after they met on stage.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, isn't that fun? And so they created this performing group. As we were growing up, we would perform throughout southeastern Idaho. And we also went to some World's Fairs and performed all over. It was really cool. So that got me interested in theater and movement and musical theater. And I went to New York for acting school. And I
So
love,
cool.
I mean, the second I came to
Yeah.
New York, I was like, whoa, this city's amazing. It's so diverse and fun and interesting. And there's so many things to take advantage of and to learn and grow from.
It really does give such energy. I'm about an hour train ride from New York City. So it's like, we get to go up a couple times a year. And I was just up there a few weeks ago and I hadn't been up there in a while. And I'm like, oh, I just love everything about it. It's just the energy. You forget about it.
There's
Um,
definitely like a magnet, like energy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so then you began your career as a yoga teacher in the 90s after graduating. What drew you from theater to yoga kind of during this time?
So I was at NYU. We were doing some yoga in the mornings as a warm up before our classes. Actually, one of a student a year ahead of me was teaching in a teacher training. So she would come and teach us in the mornings. I absolutely fell in love with yoga. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been dying to do something like this. And so I would go to the Jiva Mukti yoga studio every single day after acting class, after my classes at NYU. And then they mentioned a teacher training at the end of the year. At the time, it's funny, I didn't really have the finances for it. And it wasn't even that expensive looking back. But then my parents got me a Crunch gym membership. Crunch was the big gym back in the day.
Yes.
I would take yoga classes and Pilates classes and fitness classes at Crunch. And then I got my AFA certification, which was like American Federation of Fitness or something like that. And then I got my ACE, which was the American Council on Exercise for strength training. Then I was taking a yoga class and someone mentioned a yoga teacher training, Cindy Lee. And after that, I was like, oh, it was more affordable. It was good timing. And so I jumped into her training. This was in 1997. And then I started teaching at Crunch soon thereafter.
That's awesome.
And it was through Crunch that I was teaching, and an MTV producer was in my class.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question. Like, how did you go from that to being the face of, you know, the MTV? That was something that I also learned, and I'm like, wow, I remember like I was young when that I was like in middle school maybe when that was on, but I remember I was like looking up the videos. I'm like, oh my God, that's like a memory unlocked that of those.
I love that. Yeah. And I was still pursuing my acting career.
Mhm.
I had headshots on me. I remember it was so funny. She was like, do you happen to have a headshot? I really liked your class. And I was like, yeah, here it is.
You're like, actually, I do.
And so that she brought me into audition, and I auditioned and was cast in the MTV yoga video. And then from there, we ended up doing more. And then from there, it just kind of kept on giving me all these amazing opportunities.
Yeah. And I feel like yoga maybe in the 90s wasn't as mainstream as it is today. So first, that's why I was like, I forgot that MTV even had that. So how did people kind of take to that being on such a huge platform, something that wasn't as popular?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I even did an interview on CNN, and right after the first video came out, and they were asking me about the reason behind it. And I said, yoga's for everyone. We want to make it more accessible. I think it's so cool how trends keep, I think,
Hmm.
reinventing themselves, or things keep coming into the ether, where like MTV at that time brought yoga more mainstream because it had the music and we filmed
Hmm.
places and locations. I mean, Peloton did the same thing. They
Right.
made yoga more accessible for a lot more people,
Hmm.
even by offering a variety of classes that were like, yoga for runners, yoga for cycling. They had
Hmm.
shorter like 15-minute, 20-minute classes, things that felt more doable for some people who'd feel intimidated by yoga, which I think is wonderful. And so that's what I wanted to do with MTV Yoga, is just allow more people an entryway to this wonderful practice that's been around for 5,000 years. And once you discover it, you are just, I think for so many people, it's such an amazing practice, and you can
Hmm.
explore so much more on your own. Just to even have, if that's the way you enter, great.
Right. Yeah, it's great. I love that. And you've also got to work with some notable figures. I was looking at some of your reviews like Steve Martin and Tina Fey. Well, first of all, that's just so cool to be thinking of, father of the bride, Steve Martin doing doing yoga is like what my first thought was. How do you kind of tailor your sessions to meet the unique needs of, from regular client to big celebrity client?
I think I pretty much treat each person just as they are. I see where they're
Hmm.
in their practice and then tailor it to fit them. But with Tina, for instance, at the time, she was training for the film Date Night. And she
Hmm.
had to wear this blue strapless dress throughout the entire film. And the director was like, it'd be awesome if we could do like some upper body, chaturanga type work with her. Wanted to like tone her arms. And so I remember even working in her trailer one night before she had to go on set. And so we would do
Oh my gosh.
vinyasa class in her little trailer, which is cool. And then, Steve is a client of mine still. He's amazing. And I would say he's gone from doing more of the kind of vigorous athletic yoga to now more like mobility, floor focused stuff. A lot of times I'll just like give them a good stretch, the way I would do hands-on assists for people in classes. I think people love the privates because they can get that
Mhm.
extra
That
moment.
extra.
I was thinking, I worked with Jennifer Lawrence a couple of times. I know
So
that
cool.
hotel, and Amelia Clark. She was,
Mhm.
which is interesting. I was mainly training her like 3 or 4 days a week consistently for weeks because she was on Broadway. And she played Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany. And so this was before, this was maybe she had only done one season of Game of Thrones. I didn't even know
Okay.
who it was, to be honest. I thought I was like, had I known, my niece came to visit me in New York and she was like, can I please go with you and get a picture with her? And I was
Yeah. She's kind of a big deal, just a little.
she's lovely too, just absolutely lovely person. Savannah Guthrie is a wonderful student. It was funny. It's really funny. My boys and I were watching Wicked, and
Mm.
Jeff Goldblum was a client of mine for like
Oh my gosh.
lessons. We didn't do many because he wasn't living in New York City, but when he'd come, we would do like a session in his hotel room or at, my apartment, which I found really wild. I was like, oh man, I forgot. I did some
Oh
yoga
my
sessions with
gosh.
Jeff Goldblum.
I am definitely gonna have to tell my daughter this because she is obsessed with Wicked. It is all we can listen to and watch. And like, I'm gonna be like, the person that I just talked to
Isn't it wrong?
helped him. She's gonna be like, oh my gosh.
Small, like weird circle because Adina came to Peloton when she
Okay.
was producing her new, like she did kind of a almost like a dance type
Hmm.
album. And I got to meet her in person, which was awesome. But my girlfriend and I went to Wicked when it first opened. So we saw Kristen Chenoweth and Adina Menzel
My
on
gosh.
Broadway when it like
Wow.
way back when. And I was like,
What?
Jenny, my goodness, I can't believe we got to see like the originals,
Like, did you have any idea that it would like turn into what it is now with,
No, it's
so crazy. Like yeah, I'm like, I already want it to be November with the second, I just think they did such a beautiful job with
they
the
did.
with the
Oh,
movie. They really did.
photography and the choreography and
Yeah.
I loved it. It was
Because
incredible.
I was like, I held off on actually watching it because I was like, everyone says it's so good, but
Worried that it's not going to live up.
I just don't know if it's going to live up to it. And I just felt like it definitely did.
Yes. And then Jenna Claire, who played on Broadway for a while. I don't know if she was right after Kristen Chenoweth or maybe a few.
Okay.
She has another Hallmark movie coming out. She's
Oh,
amazing. She is a Peloton student,
okay.
connected over social media through the whole Peloton.
Wow.
And
That's so cool.
so she played Glinda on Broadway for quite a while.
My gosh, I did not know that. Wow. So, all right, you're in the public eye, you have a demanding career, and you are raising three boys. One is a set of twins. How do you kind of navigate all of that, balancing everything?
I don't think I ever balance it all. I would say I always lean into, I've always had a pretty positive attitude, even in like the worst of times in my life. I feel like, thank God, my positivity has
Hmm.
brought me through. And then I lean into that attitude of gratitude, just being so thankful for every day that I have and for the support that I have. My parents have always been extremely supportive. I mean, my mom flies to New York all the time and helps with the
Oh,
kids. My nanny's absolutely incredible, like a second mom.
hmm.
She's a family member. She's so incredible. And when I was at Peloton, everyone who was so incredible there, from the PAs, the
Hmm.
production assistants who were always incredible, my producer, my direct producer. I just felt like they made it really like amazing to go to work there because I could show
Yeah.
up and everyone was helpful and you just felt really taken care of.
Yeah, I got to do a hiking class with Rebecca Kennedy. Not, I think it was last March or the March before, but walking into that studio really was a whole energy in itself. And you can see the people behind the scenes were really just such great
Such good
people.
people and so invested and so sweet, so easy to work for, like such a really nice
Yeah.
in the production. Exactly. And then trying to figure out my next steps is very hard,
Yeah.
be transparent. Like what do I want to do this summer once I can start doing more stuff on my own is I think
Hmm.
thinking about next and how I want to continue to share content with people and teaching and things like that. So
So
retreats for
cool.
sure. I love leading retreats.
Hmm.
I always feel like when people get away and have some time and space for themselves,
Hmm.
it's just a really lovely environment. Plus, it's so neat to go see the world and experience different cultures. And then, finding like what it is that I want to do as far as how do I want to release content when I can in the future, things like that. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
nerve wracking and but also I think it's very exciting. It's like I'm in a good space right now where I had a year off of Peloton and after June I'll kind of figure out like what is it now that's next for me.
Yeah. And you really pioneered the launch of the Peloton's yoga and Pilates program. So how did that
Robin,
come to be?
isn't that
What
fun?
did
I
That's
reached out
so
to
cool.
Robin. So she and I had done a campaign
Okay.
together in 2015 and it was for Champion's Target brand, which was called
Hmm.
another wonderful trainer, Adalis is her name.
Hmm.
She was also part of the campaign and she and I have been in touch. Like I love her. She has her own, I think, running app. And she and I did a retreat together in Montana prior to Peloton. And she did a lot of the strength and I did all of the yoga. Anyways, it was called Pause Up Resort. That place is great. I should go back there.
Ooh. Like, sounds great.
It's myself, Robin, and I'm blanking on his name. He used to do like free workouts in Central Park. He's also
Mm.
Um, I'll have to find out what happened to him as well because he was a great trainer and really fun. So we did this campaign. We did a photo shoot. And we did, I think it was either right before that or during that time that maybe Robin started at Peloton. And then after that, gosh, and like 2, 3 years later, I just remember messaging her because I had seen Colleen Seidman had some yoga classes on the app and Colleen was
Okay.
teachers. She's married to Rodney Yee, and he's like the OG yoga. I did a teacher training with Rodney and Colleen in 2009. He used to be like cover of Yoga Journal, and he's
Right.
been teaching Iyengar yoga for years. They're amazing. Anyways, I saw a few of her classes, and I was like, oh man, this is interesting because she's got some yoga classes, but they weren't really like ongoing classes.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Robin. I said, is Peloton doing yoga? And she was like, no.
Nope.
And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, she messages me back and she's like, you know what? Come on in and audition. So I went in and I auditioned. I remember it so well. It was Amanda was there and Amanda runs like, she's awesome. She runs like all of the back, like the whole schedule together, more or less. Like she's behind the scenes, but does a ton of work for the like mapping out everyone's,
Mhm. Schedule.
content schedule, production schedule. And it was like a little black box. It was at the Christopher Street studio where they used to have
Mhm.
yoga and treadmill together. And then the cycling was still on 23rd. And I put on my playlist and I like had this great playlist that I'd put together. And they called me back in to do more auditions. And then I had a bunch of interviews. And then I finally got hired
Wow.
in July of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
Yep.
I did the New York City Marathon in 2016 and I started listening to podcasts and I found Rich Roll and Robin was on Rich Roll in like the beginning, like, it was like 2015 or 2016. And I'm like, I don't understand Peloton. What, you just have a bike at home and like you ride it? I don't know. And I just like that memory sticks with me for some reason because I'm like watching it grow into what it is today.
Isn't that
And
wild?
it's wild,
It
wild.
is so wild. I love it.
So now you've moved on from Peloton to focus on your family and all of your new ventures. How did you come to that decision and what did it mean for you personally and professionally?
It was such a hard decision. I think, there was a lot of different factors, like timing factors that were part of it. And then
Hmm.
also just like some of the contractual factors.
Hmm.
Being able to raise three boys by myself in New York maybe I'll say viable for me
Yeah. No, yeah.
with the way things were changing or shifting amongst just the different contracts that were being offered. And I just had to make this decision, like, is now the time that I go out on my own so that I have time to build for when,
Yeah.
my next phase. And so it was so hard, especially because I love the community and the members so much. And I
Hmm.
also personally, I love the job because I love production and I love
Right.
teaching to camera with
Yeah.
acting background and with theater. And then with all of the ideas I have in my head constantly, I learn. There are like so many different routines and choreography and fitness ideas because constantly learning. So I'll go and take a
Hmm.
reformer class and get this like light bulb idea about a new Pilates cue, and I want to share that with others, right? So I loved the day in day out schedule of just showing up and being on camera and doing the production and hearing from people and creating cool content. So that's what I would ultimately like to do again. Is
Yeah.
that same kind of work, and maybe it's in my own kind of way. So, but the building the community, having that shared experience. I mean, I'm also really excited to get back into more live teaching because
Hmm.
I love those hands on adjustments. I love the environment that you can create when you're in a yoga class, just how it feels so
Yeah, it
peaceful
does.
and grounding. And I see a lot of people now. I think a lot is going to be more hybrid. I think you'll still have the at home, and it's nice to
Right.
have those workouts when you need, but I do see a lot of people going back to in person.
Yeah.
To be around people and share that
And
community.
I think especially for yoga, like I would do the classes in my basement with like my kids' stuff all around. And it's like, it's not really as relaxing. Whereas like at my gym, I mean, they have a beautiful yoga studio. It's like the second you enter it, I mean, it's just like walking into heaven. And, there's such a difference experience that you'll get just because of your environment. So I think the hybrid is very important to have
It is.
when you can't get out. But I think it's important to have both as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
like both.
Yeah. And you have the platform Kristin McGee Movement.
Yes,
What
that's
kind of
the website that I built. I mean, and here's what's really funny is my friend and I were talking about this the other day is I had an app. I had my own app way back when. App Session was the company and we put it together. It was just Kristin McGee and you could, download it from the App Store. And he was like, wow, you were way ahead of the time, developing your own app back in
I
like,
know.
was it 2009?
Wow. I'm like, were apps even a,
10, 2011.
Yeah.
I remember we
You
even
were really
had
work.
some content at the Four Seasons St. Nevis. So I had some like on the golf course type yoga for golf. And I mean, it was fun. It was great. And then that they owned the app and then they ended up shutting down the App Session at the time. Anyways, so what I wanted, I wanted to at least create a new website because I'd had my old website up forever and it was
Right.
dated and old. And I wasn't really thinking about it when I was at Peloton. And I started writing newsletters on Substack. So I started sharing my written content. And so I love this idea of Kristin McGee movement because not only is it
Hmm.
a physical movement, but like this movement towards
A
something,
new,
like
yeah.
beginnings and for everyone to always feel like that, when you put things into momentum, like the universe will open up for you,
Mm,
for us to all create a movement together of just connection and
yeah.
kindness and working out with each other but also working in and getting to know ourselves better so we can continue to be good parents, good role models, good friends, good partners, whatever.
Yeah. And I love the idea behind not just like moving your body, but like moving your life into, because I mean, I've been teaching for 15 years and I love teaching, but I'm like, all right, for 20 more years, is this what I'm going to do? Like, what other direction? And that's what starting the podcast. This is it's been 2 years that I've had it. And like, I just kind of started it on a whim. And like, I mean, I'm interviewing, Krista McGee today. Like, I could never have imagined that that would be what it came from 2 years ago. It was just like, I'm going to, interview my dad and my mom, which was cool as well to do. Um, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, yeah, that's exactly what people need, the movement forward in any direction of their life.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, in addition to all of this, you also have a book that you have, uh,
Yeah.
Chair Yoga.
This is exciting news though, and this is something I can talk about. So I wrote Chair Yoga in 2017.
Yeah.
It came out in 2017 during my pregnancy of my twins. I was birthing that book. I was writing and so Chair Yoga came out through HarperCollins in 2017. And now available is my somatics book. So I was Wiley, who writes all of the For Dummies books, and asked if I would write a somatics for dummies, because
Oh
somatics,
my gosh.
so like, it's such a catchphrase right now, and everyone's like, what is somatics? So we were like, let's break it down for everyone, tell them what it is. So that book is available for pre-order, I think now on Amazon.
Okay. And when does it come out? Okay.
So I'm very
Perfect.
excited about that. And I'm also in the works of writing another book. And I
Oh
think
my
that
gosh.
will come out in January 2026 or maybe fall of 2025. I have to go back and find out our exact release date. But anyway, so that's exciting because I have another book coming out.
Yay, that is awesome. Like I said, I loved like researching. So like, oh my gosh, and she did this and she did that. So you've been in the industry for over 3 decades. How have you seen yoga and Pilates evolve, and where do you see it heading in the future?
I think that what's so beautiful about both the practices of yoga and Pilates is that they speak for themselves. And
Hmm.
so I see them always being just what they are. I see
Hmm.
that the traditional Pilates mat work that Joseph Pilates created and his equipment work, that I see that staying. I also see contemporary and new styles coming out and new innovations and new riffs on his equipment. You see the mega farmer, and you see people teaching more contemporary moves and not just following the classical order, right? I see yoga again always having its foundation and just this beautiful ancient practice, that just doing the sun salutations and connecting your mind,
Hmm.
your body through your breath. I do see like people are getting more and more involved in other aspects of just not the physical yoga, but also looking at pranayama, the breath work, which is wonderful. Moving into the more meditation, spiritual practices of yoga, I think that will always be evolving, and people will always want to explore that more in depth. I see, the hybrids coming out, the
Hmm.
Pilates mix. The I did a Pilates mix tape for MTV way back when, which was a
Cool.
combo of a Pilates like in 2005. A yoga sculpt, it's fun to add weight
Hmm.
now and then to like a yoga sculpting type class. But I do think that because they're just such great practices in and of themselves, I think they'll always just, I think there's going to be these weird resurgences, which is funny. I think people always jump on these trends, like this little like roller coaster. I was looking back at this USA Today article, I think it was 2010, where it was like Pilates, core of the movement. And it was me. And then my friends who owned Exhale at the time. So Fred and Elizabeth. And it was all about how Pilates was becoming this big thing. And then
Hmm.
it kind of went into the background for a while. And now it's kind of feels like it's coming back out again as a big thing. I don't know. I just think it's like they'll stay around forever. I think they might have these peaks where some are
Yeah.
much more popular than other times. But
Yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
And so, in all of your years of teaching, you built a great community through your platforms. How has that really impacted your approach to wellness and teaching?
I think that, wellness, there's so many components to it. I think it's a holistic thing where we're not just talking about what we were saying earlier, not just physical, but also mental and community. And I think I think it's like a nice, well-rounded approach to well-being, and also not one size fits all. I think it's always great for each person to figure out for themselves what wellness means to them and how they can live their best life and do what feels good for them, but also that we have, the most important thing is to remember that we aren't alone and we do have a community to rely on and lean on. And so when you're feeling down or lost or confused, there's so many people and resources
Hmm.
you can turn to. I mean, look at how many people were saved by Peloton during the pandemic.
Oh
It's
my
just
gosh, yeah.
like their lifeline. And
Right.
remember that there are always outlets and resources for you to feel better and continue
Yeah.
on, keeping that healthy mind, healthy body.
Yeah, community is so important for really anything in life, just for like your happiness, I feel. So besides yoga and, Pilates and working out, what are your go-to self-care practices that help you stay grounded in energy?
Well, walking for one. I love to like just go out inside in nature. That's what I love about New
Mhm.
York City more than anything is you can walk everywhere. Walking just feels so good to me. I love journaling, and I usually
Mhm.
write like a little thing every morning, like a little prompt to just kind of set
Mhm.
my day. I love things like doing puzzles with my boys. We've been doing a lot of just regular old school jigsaw puzzles recently, or Legos, or crossword puzzles, anything that kind of helps you also mentally kind of flex your mental
Yeah.
muscles, I think is good. I love to dance. I'd like to do more dancing, and choreography
Mhm.
has always been a fun thing that's why I like sequencing yoga classes, because I like the way things flow together.
Right.
Nature, friends, family, sitting down
Yeah.
for a nice meal, sometimes cooking. I'm getting better at cooking. That's not a say.
Well, in New York City, there's just too many places to eat. You don't need to cook, right? So let's have some fun rapid fire questions. What is your favorite yoga pose?
Tough one. Headstand.
What is your go-to healthy snack?
Greek yogurt. Sometimes I mix in chocolate protein powder, and then
Ooh, that's good. What is your preferred way to unwind after a long day?
good question. Just being with my boys,
Yeah.
just
And
snuggling
what is,
with them.
yeah, what is one thing that people would be surprised to learn about you?
Maybe. I mean, I have a pretty like goofy sense of humor. That's another fun thing about having boys, because I don't know, I love their funny jokes and like this they say. Sometimes I think people think of like I'm calm, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm this, I'm that, but I also do have this like silly side.
Yes, I love that. Yes. What is a book that you are currently reading?
I'm going to start reading Lessons in Chemistry. My cousin just gave that book to me.
That is a good one. All right. Um, all right. Well, you have given us so much today. I really appreciate everything and that you have taught the audience. And just one last question. What upcoming projects or goals are you excited about, both personally and professionally?
Upcoming projects. Well, first of all, the book that's out. I cannot wait to share that with everyone. Not only the somatics book, but also the other book that I'm currently writing. And I'm doing a lot more public speaking.
Hmm.
Very excited about that. I'm speaking at Syracuse University in a couple of weeks. I'm speaking in Chicago in September. I'm speaking at the Woodlock Lodge in July. Oh, yes, you should come. And I'm speaking at
Yeah.
Canyon Ranch in May. If anyone
Okay.
wants to join me, I'm leading, there's an Align weekend that they have there. So I'll be speaking at Canyon Ranch. So I'm really excited. It's nerve wracking public speaking, but I'm excited to dive into that more.
That's awesome. Well, I am so excited to see where you go next. And that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. So thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Samantha.
I don't know about everyone else, but I feel so inspired to slow down, breathe, and embrace movement in a way that feels good for my body and mind. Kristin's journey is such a powerful reminder that balance isn't about doing it all, it's about doing what truly matters with intention. If you loved this episode, be sure to check out Kristin's platform, Kristin McGee Movement. I'll drop all the links in the show notes so you can explore her workouts, mindfulness tips, her new book, and everything else that she's creating. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can follow me on Instagram at @therunningwinemom_. And Kristin, where can the listeners find you?
So KristinMcGee.com, that's Kristin with an I, and at Kristin McGee on Instagram, Kristin McGee on Substack, if you want to read my weekly musings, which is really fun, and then Kristin_McGee at TikTok.
Awesome. And I will link all of those. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, keep doing yoga, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Cheers. And I will be back next Tuesday.